How many questions can an interviewer potentially ask you? And the answer is probably infinite. There's almost no limit to what an interviewer may ask you. And therefore, it's important to have certain frameworks whereby you can convert your limited knowledge into a proper answer. Because most often, students do have some idea about the topic, but are struggling to convert it into a structured answer, which can be spoken for, let's say, about 90 seconds or 2 minutes. So let me give you a framework called GOBA-CHAC-LE, which is Go for good points, Ba for bad points, Ch for changes, Ac for action, and L for learning or lessons for the stakeholders. And let us use this method to make answers on renewable energy. And let's start with our first topic, which is green hydrogen. Now, not many of you will be very fully conversant, but green hydrogen is now the technology of future, which is expected to eliminate India's excessive reliance on fossil fuels and on import. So if the interviewer asks you, what are your views on green hydrogen as a new renewable resource for our country? Use GOBA-CHAC-LE as follows. So, a country of India's scale and stature can really ill afford to be excessively reliant on fossil fuels the way we are relying now. So, green hydrogen is a much needed answer to many of India's energy challenges. There are three good things about it. Number one, it's a clean source of energy because it has zero carbon footprints. Number two, it is renewable because being made out of water, the supply is infinite. And number three, it's highly efficient because of its good combustion ratio and high effectiveness. However, there are a few challenges. And number one, the cost of producing green hydrogen is still relatively high because of the technology being development stage. Number two, the electrolyzers which are used to make green hydrogen are still having very tight capacity globally. So the nation may not expand in usage of green hydrogen the way it is supposed to do. However, I really feel that the new green hydrogen policy announced by Modi government is a very positive step in this direction. And this should really help us gain greater command of using this future energy and therefore lead towards a clean India. This was the answer for green hydrogen. Now, let's look at the next answer if the same question is asked for solar energy. What are your views on solar energy as a solution for India's energy needs? Sure, sir. Happy to answer that. Sir, I sincerely believe solar energy is a futuristic solution to India's ongoing excessive reliance on fossil fuels and the challenge of containing carbon footprints. There are three good points about solar energy. Number one, it's an absolutely clean source with zero carbon footprints. Number two, the supply is infinite and renewable, so we don't have to rely on fossil fuels and our import bill could also be saved. And number three, a highly efficient form of energy which can, once capacitated in certain equipments, can then be used 24 hours as and when we want. However, there are two challenges. Number one, it's a highly capital intensive setup because we need a vast stretch of lands and we'll also need equipments. Number two, it's often dependent on weather, and if there are long periods of where your sunshine is absent, you may have struggle. However, that being said, the good news is that the government is taking initiatives to encourage private sector participation and also giving incentives. So I really feel solar energy is the future for India's energy starving, challenging situation. Almost the same answer, but using the GOBA-CHAC-LE framework, we were able to convert our limited knowledge of the topic into a proper answer. Let's take a third example of wind energy. The interviewer asks you, what are your views on wind energy as a future for our country? Sure, sir. Happy to answer that. I believe that for an energy-starved nation like India, which is really painfully relying on fossil fuels and our imports, wind energy is really a solution, especially because of the vast and the long coastline which our country possesses. There are three good things about wind energy. Number one, it's absolutely clean and wind energy doesn't leave any carbon footprints. Number two, the supply is infinite, especially at coastal areas or windy zones. It's something which could continually be sort of buffering itself again and again without relying on any kind of fossil fuels. And finally, number three, the source is very efficient because the entire distribution chain from the mills to the eventual point of supply could be very effective and very efficient. There are two serious restrictions. Number one, One challenge is that it needs vast geographical spaces. So you would need vast stretch of coastal lines or wind farmhouses, which may be actually capital intensive. The second challenge is that at times you could have seasons where wind may not be there. Therefore, how do you ensure that the supply is perennial? However, that being said, the recent move by Modi government to encourage wind energy and encourage wind farms is a step in the right direction and will really go in a long way to help country overcome its excessive dependence on fossil fuels. So use the technique of GOBA-CHA-LE and try to quickly convert your answers on topics where you may not be very familiar and conversant with the precise depth through standard structures into effective answers. You can apply the same principle for VAT, group discussions, interviews, extemporaries, and try to be successful at your journey. Here's Gagan Singh signing off for the day. May the power of winning at persona ever be with you.